Hi guys, it's Isa and welcome to another video. Today we're gonna do a dual spoiler-free review of two adult fantasy books. These are gonna be Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson and Winds of Strife by Gutman. So grab a cup of tea, coffee, beer, and let's get to it. First, why I'm doing a dual review. I'm doing it because I do think that both books have elements in common. They are obviously very different in tone and the authors are different. Brandon Sanderson is a very well-loved, famous author that has done millions of pages as of now. And then Eugene Gutman is a new author. He is actually debuted with Winds of Strife and he actually self-published the book. But the magic system, it's similar, and also it has kind of this element of some kind of madness talking to one of the main characters, and I really do think that we can cover them together, starting with Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. And one of the main things that we need to know about Warbreaker is that although it is within the Cosmere world, you don't actually need to have a lot of background on it. You don't actually need to have read any of other Brandon's books to grasp the story. So that's a great plus, and it's a very good way to enter into Brandon's world. The other great point is that Warbreaker is a standalone, same as Elantris, and so it is, like low commitment. You can do it. If you want to get into Brandon, start with this book. It's super accessible. I mean, it isn't light. It is a little bit chunky, but it is easy to get into. The writing style is fun, and it's just one book. The story finishes. That's a plus. Then getting a little bit more into the details of Warbreaker, the main thing to talk about is the magic system, because when you're getting into Brandon Sanderson's books, you get a lot of magic, but you get magic with rules. Meaning, in this world, magic works through breaths, and every person has a breath. The more breaths that you can accumulate, the more powerful you are. You can decide to give your breath away, and you can also accumulate breaths. But if you start and give away all of your breaths, you can also die. So there are also these consequences of the magic. You can, be super powerful with a lot of breaths, which is actually like accumulating kind of the soul of people. But then if you give it away, you will die. And so that is a phenomenal setting. This book, it's also multi-point of view, but don't let this turn you away. It's actually, through the main story. It's not parallel stories a lot, like it's in the same city and more or less it's related what we see. So still very accessible. And then what's the story about? The story mainly talks about two sisters. We have this king in one kingdom that have different children. And so it seems that this kingdom is kind of been stopping the war with other kingdom that is way more powerful at this moment by promising one of his daughters to the god king of this realm. This king has been all his life, like grooming his daughter to be prepared for this moment in which she is gonna go to this god king. But when the time comes, this king suddenly decides that, damn it, he really loves his daughter and he is kind of real sure that his daughter is gonna get killed. And so instead he decides to give away the younger sister that was kind of like a misfit. She wasn't really doing any obligation and she was a little bit carefree. But what happens? First, this daughter is a little bit more, carefree. She is more courageous. She doesn't really know the rules. She's not good abiding to them, and so she actually, when gets to the court, starts to manage herself way better than what was expected from her. Because really, what was expected? No one really knew what to expect from this god king and anything like that. But the sister that was actually in charge of marrying this god king also decides upon herself to go to this kingdom, save her sister, and like make things right. But when she arrives into this city, into this kingdom, well, things doesn't go as planned. And the story of the two unfold from there. But we also have a lot more layers and a lot more political intrigues. The main one is that in this kingdom they have a different religion, and in this religion they believe in gods. I know, shocking. The tricky thing here though is that these gods are people reincarnated, like they have come back, they have revived, and we know them because these people have already died, and at the moment of their death they just come back, they resurrect. And so with that, they get to be super powerful. They start to have a lot of breaths. They actually need to consume weekly breaths in order to be awake for forever. And there's this very rich political intrigue between the different gods and how the war towards these different kingdoms should or shouldn't happen. And this is thrilling, it's very lighthearted, it's funny, it's political, and it actually has, for Brandon Sanderson's book, a little bit of romance. It isn't in any way or form a romantic book. You won't have any sexy scenes. You will have like, and then they embrace next day, things like that. So it's not spicy at all, but the characters has these romantic motivations at some points. And really, the arc of both of the main characters, these sisters, it's super outstanding. I started hating one of the sisters, I won't say who, and I saw how her arc was developed pretty nicely. It was this sense in which I was started like, yeah, like you're pretty selfish with these and doing that. And then I thought that Brando was gonna try to convince me that she wasn't like that, but in fact, it was she who realized that she was actually selfish, and I love that. And she changed, or does it? We also have these resurrected gods. The main one doesn't really believe in himself, although he has revived. He doesn't believe he is a god, and it's hilarious how he tries to outwit people saying that they shouldn't be adoring him. It's just so much fun. And the link, the thing that when I was reading it, I was like, man, this seems similar to Winds of Strife, was that one of the characters has this blade that has sentience. And so this blade actually talks, and the blade, it's like,
kill it, kill it. You need to fight evil, fight it, kill it.
But in a very naive way. It was fantastic. So 5 out of 5, really cannot recommend enough. And then we move to the other adult fantasy book, Winds of Strife by U.G. Gutman. This is a self-published book, so all of the merit, and I can say that I enjoy it a lot. Things to know about Winds of Strife. The first thing is that this is the first book in a series. So no, it is not a standalone. No, you cannot binge the whole series because it's still under the writing, but it kind of concludes in a way. It ends with a hard punch that leaves us wanting to know more, but kind of the main thread or motivation of one of the main character gets kind of satisfied. You know that there's a greater world and that we are gonna move there, but the book itself, it's very satisfying. Then another great thing about this book is the magic system. This was actually the thing that put my attention into this book. It was pitched by ESMA that this book had a really similar magic system to Brandon Sanderson books, and it was very accurate because the magic in Winds of Strife also has some rules that are very clear, and they are based on emotions, which also reminded me a lot to Mistborn. In this world, you can have harness of different emotions, and by harnessing these emotions you can get to have powers. But if you get a little bit far on those emotions, those can turn also back on you, like you can use calm, but while doing so you cannot actually fight. You can harness hatred, but if you do so you will be consumed. It was really interesting, and it actually for me displayed how the author spent a lot of time thinking on how the emotions work and how we can extend them and what are naturally things that can happen. This story is also multi-point of view, but we mainly follow one of the characters. But before going there, what is the story about? This story talks about a night that is getting longer and longer and longer. And a while ago, it was decided that the one in charge of making this night longer, it was a witch. The king of this realm has decided that the best way to stop the night of getting longer and consuming the day is to hand down witches. We don't really know which witch, which, and his big bright idea is to hand down all of them. And for that, he has created these sort of warriors, harbingers that are, masters of harnessing different emotions, different powers, and they take them to just take down these witches. One of these harbingers is our main protagonist, Nye. He is a great character that has developed kind of a weird relationship with his mission. He acknowledges that he needs to stop the night, and to do so, it's true that women are dangerous and also, witches cannot work. And so he hunts them. But at the same time, he believes that the king is not correct. And so he also has this mission on getting rid of the king. And so that's the story. In this book, you'll have morally great characters. Great characters. We'll also have very complex and rich relationships between the characters, and we'll also have some trigger warnings, especially for mental illnesses and physical abuse. I know how this sounds, but the author manages to make this work. I think that this is gonna be a little bit of an unpopular opinion, but I really liked our main character, Nye. He goes a little bit far with the physical abuse, all of that, and I know that's bad. I don't support that at all. But I kind of was sad when I was understanding his story. I was really compelled to what he was living, and although I didn't share his decisions and I don't support them, I was able to see the good in him somehow. I thought that it was super interesting that he had this madness, and that this madness was called madness in his mind, that it was also telling him to go and do bad things. Which again, the link with WARBREAKER, we have in WARBREAKER this sword, and in here we have the madness, and this madness was all the time saying,
Kill him, kill him, kill him. You should kill him. Killer, killer, you're a killer.
That was maddening sometimes, even for me. So imagine Nye. I really enjoyed this book. For me, it was a 4.5 stars. And although it's the first one in a series, I'm keen to know what happens. There are different characters that are thrown into the book, also very rich. We have this character that reminded me a lot to Ciri from The Witcher. This girl that has a lot of power, but she needs to be trained because she otherwise can be dangerous. Then also other people, like it kind of reminded me a little bit to The Witcher. I don't know why. I guess that powerful women doing stuff. If you are looking for a new world with a very great story, a great pace, punching scenes, a very good beginning and a very strong ending, characters that will remain with you, and overall a good magic system, you should give Winds of Strife a chance. Alrighty then, that was it for today. I really hope you enjoyed the reviews. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this one,
subscribe to the channel
and let me know down below what were your thoughts. Are you interested in reading them? Have you already read them? Let me know. And I really hope to see you soon in new videos. Bye!